Sir William Cash.
Thank you. I am bound to say, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that listening to what I just heard is a complete inversion of what leaving the European Union is all about. The European Union is utterly undemocratic. The EU makes its laws, and I speak as a person who's been chairman of the European Scrutiny Committee for 10 years, and I have been on the committee for 34 years. I know a tiny bit about what's been going on. The reality is that the legislation is made in the Council of Ministers, behind closed doors, by majority vote of other countries, over us, and in addition to that, normally made by consensus without even a transcript. Fortunately, the people of this country will be able to hear and see what is done in this chamber today, which you certainly can't do in the Council of Ministers. It is a complete travesty to suggest that in some shape or another we are Little Englanders or nationalistic. We are nothing of the kind. This, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is a watershed moment in our history. This bill will go down in history when it is enacted in conjunction with the Withdrawal Act of 2018, which repeals the European Communities Act 1972 and takes us out of the subjugation and the shackles of our being able to govern ourselves and having the rules imposed upon us by other member states. It is about lawmaking. That is why we are returned to this House. This is why, by the free choice of the people of this country, and I congratulate them with every fibre of my being for making the decision by such an emphatic decision a few days ago. The reality is, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that this is a historic moment. It compares to the decision that was taken when, in 1660, the Cromwellian period was redefined. We came back into parliamentary government. We re-established parliamentary government in 1688, and then there were the Corn Laws. There was the giving of the right to the British people, the working man, to be able to vote in 1867. And then in May 1940, we decided that we would not be governed by any other country, and we defeated Hitler, and we made it clear that we were going to be a self-governing nation. I will give way.
I'm very grateful to my honourable friend for giving way. Will he acknowledge that there are hundreds of thousands of EU citizens in this country, people like me who have come from Europe to settle in this country, who voted for Brexit and believe in Brexit. And unlike the honourable lady from the Lib Dem benches who seeks to somehow represent all of these EU citizens, there are hundreds of thousands of us who stand by that decision and are proud the decision that this country has taken to regain her sovereignty.
I absolutely agree with every word my honourable friend has said. For me, Mr. Deputy Speaker, this has been a long journey. My first amendment on the question of sovereignty was in June 1986 during the Single European Act. I wasn't even allowed to debate it. I was cut off the knees by one of your predecessors for daring to suggest that it should be debated. The fact is that then we moved on to the Maastricht Treaty, and I had the honour and the privilege to help to run and to lead that rebellion because it was needed to stop European government, which is what that treaty was all about. Then we moved on to Nice, Amsterdam, and then Lisbon. And I look around, survey the landscape of this enormous change that's now taking place today, and I see exhausted volcanoes of former prime ministers who've been constantly on the media telling us that we got Brexit wrong. No, we did not. And furthermore, Mr. Deputy Speaker, not only did we get it right, the British people absolutely 100% know that this is one of the great moments in British history. We have been shackled by the European Union. Yes, we will continue to trade with the European Union. Yes, we will have global trading. Yes, we will have our democracy and our sovereignty back. This is a great moment in our history, and I can only say that as far as I am concerned, one of the most important two clauses in this bill are clauses 29 and 38, one of which gives the right of the European Scrutiny Committee to determine whether or not the matters of national vital interest need to be protected from legislation which during the transitional period may well be brought in against us by the European Union from behind closed doors, as in the case of the ports regulation, for example, only a few years ago, which was objected to and was absolutely resisted, not only by the members of the committee, but also by all the trade unions and also all the port employers. Yet it was imposed upon us. And by the as the minister, former minister says, and by him as well. We were overridden. This Parliament was treated with contempt, despite the fact that we were completely against this ports regulation. So the other clause is the one which relates to parliamentary sovereignty. And I am glad to note that the wording in that clause is identical to the wording in certain respects that I put forward in June 1986. Perhaps that long journey has been proved to be worthwhile. So I congratulate the Prime Minister on what he has achieved. And above all else, I congratulate the voters of this country, particularly those in Labour seats. I was brought up in Sheffield. I saw the destruction of the steel industry. I saw the destruction of the coal industry. Yeah, I saw it. No, it was done. No, it was done. Look, I'm not going to take any lessons from the gentleman on the front bench. I voted against the closure of the coal pits. I was one of the very few people. I'm just telling you that it was the European coal steel community that was at the root of the problem, and the people as a chairman, as a vice chairman of the coal communities all-party group, I can tell you, I worked with Labour members of Parliament on these questions.
The honourable gentleman is a very experienced parliamentarian. He knows he should address the chair and not individual members. And while I'm on my feet, I'm looking at the clock as well. Sir William Cash.
Indeed, I'm grateful for that comment because I agree with it. But I will say this, with every fibre of my being, the European Union has done no good to this country. We run a massive deficit, and we run a surplus with the rest of the world. We have now regained, by this bill, when enacted, the right to govern ourselves. It's about democracy and it's about trust. And that is something which is so precious, people fought and died for it.